The first charge came through on a Tuesday morning while I was in a meeting. Luxury villa reservation. 7 nights. I remember staring at the notification longer than I should have, because at first I honestly assumed it was fraud. Then another charge appeared 15 minutes later. Private catering deposit, then excursion bookings. Boat rental. Transportation service. I opened the family group chat and reread the messages from the week before. We're keeping it tight this year. Nothing extravagant, just immediate family. I actually sat there trying to convince myself there had to be some misunderstanding. My father had access to the travel card account because years ago, I added him during an emergency trip for my mother's surgery. Afterward, nobody ever removed it. It just became one of those quiet family arrangements that linger indefinitely because questioning it feels rude. That was how most things worked in my family. I paid for enough things quietly that eventually everyone stopped distinguishing between generosity and availability. The villa booking alone was for 14 people, 14. I counted the guest names twice because I wasn't even invited, not directly, anyway. My sister had casually mentioned they might not have room this year. I think that was the moment something inside me stopped straining to interpret everything kindly. I didn't call anyone, didn't send angry texts. Didn't ask for explanations I already knew would arrive wrapped in guilt or confusion or technicalities. Instead, over the next 2 hours, I downloaded statements, reviewed authorization records, and contacted the bank fraud department. The representative on the phone kept asking calm procedural questions while I sat staring out my office window at traffic. Were these charges personally approved by you? No. Would you like the account temporarily frozen while the investigation is processed? I hesitated there, not because I doubted myself, because part of me still felt conditioned to protect them from consequences. Then I thought about being excluded from a vacation I was apparently financing. Yeah, I said quietly. Freeze it. The next morning, my father texted me a photo of champagne glasses beside a hotel lobby fountain. No mention of the charges, no mention of repayment. Just casual inclusion after the fact, like I should feel grateful to witness the experience remotely. I didn't respond. A few hours later, I formally disputed everything tied to the travel account and flagged the card for unauthorized use. After that, I went back to work. The airport situation happened the following afternoon. I only know the sequence because my phone exploded while I was buying groceries. First my sister, then my mother, then 3 cousins, then my father, voicemail after voicemail. At first I ignored them because I already understood what had happened. Once the disputes processed, the travel agency suspended ticket fulfillment tied to the flagged payment source. The account lock triggered additional security reviews because multiple reservations had been bundled together under one financial authorization, meaning nobody boarded. Eventually, my father texted, "Our boarding passes as rejected." A minute later, security is saying payment verification failed. Then, call me immediately. I stood beside a refrigerator full of bottled drinks reading those messages while another customer compared yogurt prices beside me. Weirdly ordinary moment. That's what emotional exhaustion feels like sometimes. Not dramatic, just deeply quiet. I typed one sentence. Maybe try tightening the guest list. Then I put my phone away, not because I felt victorious. Honestly, I mostly felt tired. The family group chat turned chaotic by evening. Relatives arguing, people blaming miscommunication. My mother insisting there had to be some mistake. Nobody initially addressed the actual issue, not the unauthorized spending, not the assumption, just the inconvenience of consequences arriving publicly. The next day, my father's lawyer called me 15 times. 15. I stared at the notifications piling up during lunch until eventually I answered. The lawyer sounded professionally careful, which told me immediately my father had framed himself as the injured party. "We're hoping to resolve this matter privately," he said. I almost laughed at the word privately, as though privacy had ever protected anyone except the people benefiting from silence. I explained calmly that the charges were unauthorized, the card usage exceeded prior agreements, and I had documentation of previous repayment promises that were never honored. Long pause. Then the lawyer asked, more cautiously this time, "You were not informed about these expenses beforehand?" "No," I said. "I was excluded from the trip." Another pause. That one felt different, like the shape of the situation had finally become clear to someone objective. Afterward, the calls from family changed tone. Less outrage, more negotiation. My mother cried during one conversation and said, "You embarrassed everyone." I remember leaning back in my chair after she said that. Not because I was angry, because even then, embarrassment mattered more than what caused it. My father eventually stopped calling altogether. That hurt in its own way, too. It confirmed something I'd been avoiding for years. Once access to my resources disappeared, communication suddenly became difficult for everyone. A month later, I removed every shared financial connection attached to my accounts: travel access, emergency cards, automatic authorizations, all of it. Nobody fought me on it anymore. That was the saddest part. The resistance only existed while there was still something to take.